Picture this. You're at a family barbecue, and your Uncle Steve, the one who still thinks flip phones are perfectly fine, decides to give you unsolicited life advice. Again. You know what your problem is, he says, waving a hot dog like it's a magic wand of wisdom. You're too sensitive. Back in my day, we didn't have all these feelings. Your jaw clenches. Your hands ball into fists. You're ready to unleash 3 years of pent-up frustration about how Uncle Steve once cried watching a dog food commercial, but then something magical happens. You smile, you nod. You take a bite of your burger and say absolutely nothing. Uncle Steve keeps talking, but now he's talking to himself. His audience of 1 just became an audience of 0, and suddenly his profound wisdom about kids these days sounds exactly like what it is, an old man yelling at clouds. Here's what just happened. You discovered the smartest way to deal with toxic people without saying a single word. And no, it's not about being a doormat or swallowing your pride. It's about something the ancient Stoics figured out over 2,000 years ago, that the most powerful weapon you have isn't your voice, it's your silence. Marcus Aurelius, who basically invented the concept of unbothered king energy long before it was cool, wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed." Today, we're going to learn how to become so emotionally bulletproof that toxic people will bounce right off you like rubber balls hitting a brick wall. We're not talking about avoiding toxic people. That's impossible unless you plan to become a hermit with really good Wi-Fi. We're talking about becoming the kind of person who makes toxic people question their entire life strategy. Here's a truth that's harder to swallow than gas station sushi. Toxic people aren't your biggest problem. Your reaction to them is. Think about it. You can quit your job because of that coworker who microwaves fish in the break room and somehow makes it everyone else's fault. You can block your high school friend who turned into a pyramid scheme zombie. You can even move to a different city to escape your mother-in-law, who thinks your life choices are interesting, and we all know what interesting means in mother-in-law speak. But here's the plot twist nobody talks about. You can change your zip code, your job, and your phone number, but you can't outrun your own emotional reactions. They're like that one song that gets stuck in your head. They follow you everywhere. Let me paint you a picture. Sarah works in an office with Linda. Linda has turned passive aggression into an art form. She's the Picasso of petty comments. Every Monday morning, Linda looks at Sarah's weekend photos and says things like, "Must be nice to have so much free time," with a smile that could cut glass. Sarah used to spend her Sunday nights preparing comebacks. She'd practice in the mirror, rehearsing the perfect response that would finally put Linda in her place. She was basically doing emotional CrossFit, preparing for battle. But here's what Sarah didn't realize. Every time she prepared for Linda's attacks, Linda was already winning. She was living rent-free in Sarah's head, throwing parties in her thoughts, and Sarah was the one paying for the electricity. The ancient philosopher Epictetus, who, by the way, started life as a slave and ended up teaching emperors, so he knew a thing or two about difficult people, said it best. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them. In other words, Linda's comments only have power if Sarah gives them power. It's like being afraid of a shadow. The shadow can't actually hurt you, but your fear of it absolutely can. Here's where it gets interesting. Toxic people aren't evil masterminds plotting your downfall while stroking white cats. They're more like emotional pickpockets. They've just gotten really, really good at reaching into your emotional wallet and stealing your peace. And how did they get so good? Practice. Lots and lots of practice. Think about it like this. If you walked into a boxing ring with Floyd Mayweather, you wouldn't last 30 seconds. Not because you're weak, but because you never trained. Floyd has thrown millions of punches. You've thrown, well, maybe you punched a pillow once when you were really mad at your ex. Toxic people are emotional Floyd Mayweathers. They've been perfecting their craft since childhood. They know exactly which buttons to push, how long to hold eye contact to make you uncomfortable, and what tone of voice makes you feel like you're 12 years old getting scolded. Meanwhile, you're walking into this emotional boxing match with the emotional equivalent of pool noodles for arms. But here's the good news. Just like physical strength, emotional strength can be trained. And the training starts with understanding something that sounds simple but is actually revolutionary. You don't have to react to everything. I know. It sounds like advice your yoga instructor would give you while you're struggling to touch your toes. But stay with me. Let's go back to Sarah and Linda. One Monday morning, Linda delivers her usual passive-aggressive masterpiece. Wow, Sarah, another vacation photo. Some people really know how to prioritize fun over responsibility. Old Sarah would have felt her face get hot. She'd have stumbled over words trying to explain that she worked overtime last month to afford that trip, that she deserves to have fun, that Linda probably just wishes she had friends to travel with. But new Sarah, let's call her Sarah 2.0, does something different. She looks at Linda with the same expression you'd have if a pigeon started reciting Shakespeare. Mild interest, but mostly confusion about why this is happening. Sarah says, and goes back to her coffee. That's it. No explanation, no defense, no counterattack. Just acknowledgement that sounds were made in her general direction. And you know what happens? Linda short-circuits. She was expecting a reaction. That's her fuel. Without it, she's like a vampire who just found out garlic is back in style. Let's talk about why this works, because understanding the psychology makes you basically unstoppable. Toxic people are like those street performers who do magic tricks for tips. They need an audience. Without people watching, reacting, and giving them attention, they're just someone waving their hands around talking to themselves. Imagine if a street magician did a trick and everyone just walked by without looking. He'd probably pack up and go home, right? Same principle applies to toxic people. They throw out their toxic comments like fishermen casting lines. They're not necessarily trying to catch you specifically, they're just hoping someone, anyone, will bite. And when you bite, when you react, when you get defensive or angry or hurt, you're basically jumping into their boat and asking them to teach you how to fish. Here's a real-life example that'll make this crystal clear. Meet Dave. Dave has a superpower. He can turn any conversation into a complaint about his life. You could say, "Beautiful sunset tonight." And Dave would respond with, "Yeah, well, at least someone's having a good day. My neighbor's dog kept me up all night. My coffee maker broke, and don't even get me started on my back pain." Dave isn't necessarily a bad person. He's just learned that complaining gets him attention, and attention feels better than being ignored. It's like a toddler who throws tantrums. They're not evil. They just figured out that making noise gets results. For years, Dave's friends would try to help. They'd offer solutions, sympathy, different perspectives. But Dave didn't want solutions. He wanted an audience for his one-man tragedy show. Then something interesting happened. Dave's friend Mike, let's call him emotionally enlightened Mike, stopped playing along. "Dave, this weather is terrible. It's too hot, too sunny, too perfect. Makes me feel worse about my life." Mike, "That's rough, man," continues eating his sandwich. Dave, "I mean, everyone else seems to be enjoying it, but here I am, stuck in my miserable existence while..." Mike, checks his phone. Dave, "Are you even listening to me?" Mike, "I heard you say the weather is terrible because it's too nice." And that's when Dave realized his audience had left the building. Mike wasn't being mean. He was just refusing to participate in the drama Olympics. Now let's talk about the nuclear option. Strategic silence. This isn't the silent treatment. That's passive-aggressive and just as toxic as what you're trying to avoid. This is something completely different. Strategic silence is like emotional aikido. Instead of fighting force with force, you redirect the energy and let your opponent defeat themselves. Picture this scenario. You're at dinner with friends, and there's always that one person, let's call her Negative Nancy, who has to find something wrong with everything. Nancy, "This restaurant is so overpriced. I could make this pasta at home for $3. And look at these tiny portions. No wonder everyone's always hungry." Society has really gone downhill when everyone else starts defending the restaurant, explaining why they like it, trying to change Nancy's mind. It's like watching people try to convince a cat that it actually loves taking baths. But you do something different. You nod once and continue enjoying your overpriced tiny portions. You don't agree, you don't disagree, you just exist peacefully in the same space. Here's what happens in Nancy's brain. Wait, why isn't this person engaging? Are they mad at me? Did they not hear me? Should I try again? But louder? So Nancy escalates. I mean, really, $22 for pasta? What do you think? She's looking directly at you now. You. The bread is really good. Takes another bite. You've just done something revolutionary. You acknowledge that she spoke without acknowledging her complaint. It's like verbal Aikido. You didn't resist her force, you just redirected it into irrelevance. Nancy is now faced with a choice. Continue complaining to someone who clearly isn't bothered by her complaints, or find a new target. Most of the time, she'll find a new target, because complaining to someone who doesn't react is like trying to start a fire with wet matches. Technically possible, but way too much work. Here's where it gets really interesting, and where most people mess up. When you stop reacting to toxic people, they don't just give up and go away. Oh no, that would be too easy. First, they escalate. It's like when you ignore a toddler's tantrum. Do they think, oh, I see that my current approach isn't working. I should try rational communication. Of course not. They turn the volume up to 11 and throw themselves on the floor like they're auditioning for a soap opera. Toxic adults do the same thing, just with more vocabulary and better fashion sense. Let's go back to our friend Linda from the office. Remember, Sarah 2.0 has stopped reacting to Linda's passive-aggressive comments. So, what does Linda do? She escalates. Linda louder now. I guess some people just don't care about teamwork. Must be nice to live in your own little world. Old Sarah would have taken the bait. What do you mean by that? I'm a total team player. Remember when I stayed late to help with the Peterson account? But Sarah 2.0 just looks up from her computer with the expression of someone who heard a weird noise but isn't sure where it came from. Did you need something work-related, Linda? Notice what happened there? Sarah didn't ignore Linda. That would be rude and unprofessional. She redirected the conversation back to something productive. It's like emotional judo. Linda, realizing her usual tactics aren't working, might try a different approach. I was just saying that some people seem to have it easier than others around here. Sarah 2.0. The Johnson report needs to be finished by 3. Did you have questions about your section? Sarah is being friendly and professional, but she's absolutely refusing to engage with the drama. She's like a customer service representative who keeps steering angry callers back to solving their actual problem instead of listening to their life story. And here's the beautiful part. Linda can't complain to HR about Sarah being professional and focused on work. Linda's entire strategy depends on getting people to engage with her negativity, and Sarah just won't. It's like trying to play tennis with someone who keeps putting the ball back in your court, no matter how hard you hit it. Eventually, you get tired of playing alone. Now, let's tackle the big boss level of toxic people. Family. Because while you can quit your job or unfriend people on social media, you can't exactly divorce your relatives. Well, you can, but then you miss out on all the good family drama, and let's be honest, some of it is better than Netflix. Family toxic people are the most challenging because they have years of data on you. They know which buttons to push because they helped install half of them. They remember when you wet the bed at age 5, when you had that unfortunate haircut in middle school, and when you dated that person everyone knew was wrong for you. Meet the classic family toxic person, Aunt Karen. I know. All the Karens out there are probably tired of being the default name for difficult people, but work with me here. Aunt Karen has opinions about everything you do, and she shares them with the subtlety of a foghorn. At family gatherings, she's like a heat-seeking missile programmed to find your insecurities. Still single? Well, you know, your biological clock is ticking. My friend's daughter met someone on one of those apps. Maybe you should lower your standards a bit. The old you might have explained your career goals, your contentment with single life, or launched into a feminist rant about biological clocks being a social construct designed to pressure women into. You get the idea. But the new you, the stoically trained you take a sip of your drink, smile genuinely, and say, "The potato salad is really good this year. Did Grandma make it?" Aunt Karen wasn't expecting that. She was expecting defense, explanation, maybe even tears. Instead, she got redirected to potato salad. It's like she threw a punch and hit air. "Well, I'm just saying, you don't want to end up alone. I'm going to get some more of that potato salad. Anyone else want some?" You've just demonstrated something powerful. You can be polite, loving, and family-oriented without engaging with toxicity. You're not being rude to Aunt Karen. You're just refusing to participate in a conversation that serves nobody. The workplace is like a social experiment where they put a bunch of people with different personalities, stress levels, and caffeine dependencies in one building and see what happens. Spoiler alert. Drama happens. But here's where your new Stoic superpowers really shine, because in the workplace, you can't just walk away from difficult people. You have to work with them. It's like being stuck in an elevator with someone who only knows how to whistle off-key versions of pop songs. Let's meet Marcus from accounting. Marcus has perfected the art of the backhanded compliment. He's like a master chef, but instead of cooking delicious food, he serves up insults disguised as praise. "Great presentation, Jennifer. I mean, it was pretty basic, but not everyone can be a natural public speaker like some of us." The room gets awkward. Everyone's looking at Jennifer to see how she'll respond. Will she defend her presentation? Will she call out Marcus? Will she cry in the bathroom later? But Jennifer has been studying the ancient art of not giving a damn about Marcus's opinion. "Thanks for the feedback, Marcus." So, moving on to the quarterly projections. That's it. No defense, no counterattack, no acknowledgement that an insult was even delivered. She treated his comment like background noise and moved the meeting forward. Marcus is confused. His insult was supposed to derail the conversation, make Jennifer flustered, and put him in the spotlight. Instead, Jennifer just continued being professional. Marcus tries again. "I just think we should aim higher, you know. Really push ourselves to exceed expectations." Jennifer: "Absolutely. The data shows we're on track to exceed last quarter's numbers by 12%. Here's the breakdown." Notice what Jennifer did? She agreed with the reasonable part of what Marcus said, aiming higher is good, while completely ignoring the implied criticism that her work doesn't meet expectations. She's like an emotional filter. She lets the useful stuff through and blocks the toxic waste. This drives people like Marcus absolutely insane, because their whole strategy depends on getting emotional reactions. When you respond professionally and factually, they can't argue with you without looking like complete jerks in front of everyone else. Let's talk about the modern breeding ground for toxicity. Social media. It's like someone took all of human psychology, put it in a blender with anonymity and instant gratification, and created a platform where people can share their worst thoughts at the speed of light. You post a picture of your coffee. Seems innocent enough, right? But somehow, coffee photo Jenny from high school finds a way to make it about politics, your life choices, and the decline of Western civilization. Must be nice to afford fancy coffee while some of us are struggling to make ends meet, but I guess not everyone understands what real problems look like. The old you might have written a 3-paragraph response explaining that it's actually just regular coffee from home, that you're not trying to show off, that you support various charities and are very aware of real problems in the world. And by the way, didn't Jenny just post vacation photos from Cancun last month? But the new you understands something revolutionary. You don't owe strangers on the internet explanations for your life choices. So, what do? Nothing. You let the comment sit there like a wet sock on a bathroom floor. Unpleasant, but ultimately, someone else's problem to deal with. Or if you're feeling generous, you might hit it with the most powerful response in the social media arsenal, the heart emoji. Not a sarcastic heart, not a passive-aggressive heart, just a simple acknowledgement that they took the time to comment. This breaks people's brains. They came for a fight and got a heart emoji. It's like showing up to a duel and finding out your opponent brought cookies instead of swords. Jenny doesn't know what to do with that. She can't argue with a heart emoji. She can't escalate against kindness. She's essentially been diffused by the digital equivalent of a pat on the head. Let's get into the psychology of why this works so well, because understanding the mechanics makes you basically unstoppable. Toxic people operate on a simple economic principle. They trade drama for attention. Drama is their currency, and attention is what they're trying to buy. When you stop accepting their currency, their entire economy collapses. Think of it like this. Imagine someone trying to pay for groceries with monopoly money. The cashier would just look at them confused and say, "This isn't real money." That's essentially what you're doing when you don't react to toxic behavior. You're refusing to accept fake emotional currency. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you don't react, toxic people don't just give up, they double down. They start offering you more monopoly money, thinking the problem is that they didn't offer enough. This is why toxic people escalate when you don't react. In their minds, they're thinking, maybe they didn't hear me. Maybe I wasn't clear enough. Maybe I need to be louder, more dramatic, more obvious. Let's say someone sends you a passive-aggressive text. "I guess you're too busy for your old friends now." The old you might have immediately texted back a long explanation about how busy you've been, how much you value the friendship, asking when you can get together, essentially writing a thesis on why you're not a terrible person. The new you might respond 6 hours later with, "Hope you're doing well." That's it. No defense, no explanation, no acknowledgement that an accusation was even made. You responded to the part of their message that was actually about friendship, checking in, and ignored the part that was about drama, the accusation. This response is like emotional aikido. You've redirected their negative energy into something positive without engaging with the toxicity, and they can't really argue with, "Hope you're doing well," without looking absolutely insane. Now, let's talk about the ultimate toxic person weapon, the guilt trip. This is their nuclear option, the emotional equivalent of bringing a bazooka to a water balloon fight. Guilt trips work because they target something beautiful about human nature, our desire to be good people who care about others. Toxic people weaponize empathy, which is like using someone's kindness against them. It's emotional terrorism. The classic guilt trip sounds like this. "I guess I'm just not important enough for you to call back. I understand. I'll just sit here alone while everyone else has people who actually care about them." This is designed to make you feel terrible and immediately call them back, apologizing profusely and explaining why you've been busy. It's like an emotional trap. They lay it out and wait for you to step in it. But here's what they don't expect. What if you just don't step in the trap? Let's say your friend sends you that guilt trip text. The old you would have immediately called, full of apologies and explanations. You'd have spent an hour reassuring them that they are important, that you do care, that you've just been overwhelmed with work, family, life. The new you might respond, "I care about you. Let's catch up this weekend if you're free." Notice what happened there. You acknowledged their feeling. They want to feel important, without accepting responsibility for their emotional state. Their loneliness isn't your fault. You offered a solution, "Let's catch up," without accepting blame. You didn't apologize for being busy. It's like someone threw a guilt trip at you and you caught it, examined it briefly, and handed back only the useful part while letting the toxic part fall to the ground. They might escalate. "This weekend, I've been trying to reach you for weeks, and now you want to squeeze me into your busy schedule? Friday evening or Sunday afternoon work better for you?" You're being kind and accommodating while completely refusing to engage with the drama. It's like they're trying to start an argument, and you keep responding with practical solutions. Here's where toxic people get really creative. When their usual tactics don't work, they start projecting their own behavior onto you. It's like psychological deflection. Instead of looking at their own issues, they point at you and say, "No, you're the problem." This might sound like, "You're being so cold and distant lately. You used to be such a warm person. I don't know what's changed." But you're not the friend I used to know. What's really happening here is that they're frustrated because their emotional manipulation tactics aren't working anymore, so they're trying to convince you that being emotionally healthy is actually a character flaw. It's like someone complaining that you're not letting them borrow money anymore, so they accuse you of being selfish and uncaring. The problem isn't that you're selfish. The problem is that they're upset. Their access to your resources has been cut off. Let's say someone accuses you of being different or cold because you're not reacting to their drama anymore. The old you might have gotten defensive. I'm not cold. I'm the same person I've always been. I'm just trying to be more positive and not get caught up in negativity. The new you might say, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm working on being more peaceful and centered. Notice the difference? You're not defending your character or explaining your choices. You're acknowledging their feeling without accepting their interpretation of your behavior. And you're actually being honest about what you're doing, working on being more peaceful. They might push back. Peaceful? You mean ignoring your friends when they need support? I'm here if you want to talk about something specific that's bothering you. You've just done something brilliant. You've separated their emotional drama from any actual problems they might have. You're saying, I'm happy to help with real issues, but I'm not going to participate in manufactured drama. Let's talk about energy vampires, those people who somehow manage to drain your life force just by being in the same room. They're not necessarily saying anything terrible, but somehow after spending time with them, you feel like you've been hit by a truck full of exhaustion. These people have turned complaining into an art form. They don't want solutions. They want an audience for their endless suffering. They're like emotional black holes, sucking in all the positive energy around them. You know the type. You ask how their day was, and suddenly you're getting a detailed breakdown of every minor inconvenience they've experienced since dawn, complete with emotional commentary and requests for validation. My day? Oh, don't even get me started. First, my alarm didn't go off. Well, it did go off, but I was so tired I didn't hear it. Probably because the neighbors were being loud again last night, and you know how thin these walls are, and my landlord won't do anything about it, even though I've complained 3 times. 15 minutes later, you're somehow exhausted, and they haven't even gotten to lunchtime yet. The old you would have listened patiently, offered suggestions, which they'd reject, and walked away feeling like your soul had been put through a blender. The new you has learned the magic of the conversation redirect. That sounds frustrating. Hey, did you see that new restaurant that opened on 5th Street? You're not being dismissive. You acknowledge their frustration. But you're also not getting sucked into the vortex of endless complaints. You're like a conversational lifeguard, throwing them a rope to pull them out of the whirlpool of negativity. If they try to drag the conversation back to their problems, yeah, but anyway. So then my coffee maker started making this weird noise. I'm going to grab some water. Want anything? You're physically removing yourself from the energy drain while remaining polite and friendly. It's like having an escape hatch in every conversation. Now let's talk about boundaries, because this is where most people mess up. They think setting boundaries means building walls and becoming cold and distant. But that's not boundaries. That's just being antisocial. Real boundaries are like having a really good spam filter on your email. The good stuff gets through, the toxic stuff gets automatically sorted out, and you don't have to think about it. Boundaries aren't about punishing other people. They're about protecting your own energy and mental health. It's like having an immune system for your emotions. Let's say someone in your life has a habit of calling you to dump all their problems on you, but they never ask how you're doing or show interest in your life. They treat you like an emotional garbage disposal. The old you might have felt obligated to listen every time, even when you were tired, stressed, or dealing with your own problems. You'd hang up feeling drained and resentful. The new you sets a boundary that sounds like this. I care about you, but I only have about 10 minutes to talk right now. That's it. You're not being mean. You're being honest about your availability. You're treating your time and energy like the valuable resources they are. If they respect the boundary, great. You have a 10-minute conversation and end on a positive note. If they don't respect the boundary, 10 minutes? but I really need to talk about what happened with my boss. And then there's the situation with my neighbor, and oh my God, you won't believe what my ex did. I understand you're dealing with a lot. Let's plan a time when we can really talk properly. I need to go now, but let's catch up this weekend. And then, and this is crucial, you actually end the conversation. You don't let them guilt you into staying on the phone for another hour. You're being kind and supportive while also protecting your own well-being. It's like being a loving friend with excellent time management skills. Here's something nobody talks about. Some people are literally addicted to drama, not metaphorically addicted, actually neurochemically addicted to the stress hormones that drama creates. Think about it. When you're in the middle of a dramatic situation, your body releases adrenaline, cortisol, and other stress hormones. For some people, this becomes their normal state. They literally don't know how to function without chaos. These people will create drama if it doesn't exist naturally. They're like emotional pyromaniacs. If there's no fire, they'll light one just to watch it burn. You might know someone like this. Everything in their life is always a crisis. If they're not fighting with their boyfriend, they're feuding with their coworker. If work is going well, there's drama with their family. If family is peaceful, there's some crisis with their health, their finances, or their neighbor's dog. The old you might have gotten sucked into their drama cycle, offering advice, taking sides, getting emotionally invested in their latest crisis. The new you understands something important. You can't save someone from an addiction they don't want to overcome. When they come to you with their latest dramatic situation, instead of getting pulled in, you might say, "That sounds really stressful. What do you think you're going to do about it?" Notice what you did there. You acknowledged their stress without taking responsibility for fixing it. You're being supportive without becoming a character in their drama series. If they try to pull you in deeper, I don't know what to do. That's why I'm asking you. You're so good at figuring these things out. I trust you to handle this. You're stronger than you think. You're giving them something addictive drama seekers rarely get. Confidence in their own ability to solve problems. You're not feeding their addiction to crisis. You're offering them something healthier. Here's an advanced technique that's absolutely devastating to toxic people, mirroring their energy back to them without absorbing it yourself. It's like being an emotional mirror. You reflect what they're giving you without taking it on as your own. If someone is being passive-aggressive, you respond with direct, clear communication. If someone is being dramatic, you respond with calm factuality. If someone is being negative, you respond with neutral observation. Let's say someone says, "I suppose you think you're better than everyone else now that you have that new job." The old you might have gotten defensive. "I don't think I'm better than anyone. I work hard for everything I have. I can't believe you'd say that." The new you mirrors back clarity. "It sounds like you're upset about something. What's really bothering you?" You're not taking on their accusation as truth, but you're also not getting defensive. You're reflecting their emotional state back to them in a way that forces them to look at what they're actually feeling. This is incredibly powerful because most toxic behavior comes from unprocessed emotions. People lash out because they're hurt, scared, or insecure, but they don't want to admit those vulnerable feelings. So they disguise them as attacks. When you mirror back the real emotion instead of engaging with the attack, you're forcing them to either get honest about what they're feeling or back down from the confrontation. They might respond, "I'm not upset. I'm just saying that success changes people. And I hope it doesn't change you. I appreciate you caring about our friendship. That means a lot to me." Now you've reflected back the positive intention behind their words, caring about the friendship, while ignoring the negative delivery, the accusation. It's like emotional alchemy. You're transforming toxic energy into something positive. Let's talk about why silence is so powerful that it literally changes the entire dynamic of every relationship you have. In our noisy world, everyone expects a response to everything. Social media has trained us to react instantly to every opinion, every criticism, every piece of bait that gets thrown in our direction. We've become Pavlovian reactors. Someone rings the bell of provocation, and we automatically salivate with responses. But when you don't react, you break the pattern. You become unpredictable in the best possible way. Imagine if everyone around you has learned to expect certain responses from you. Your mother criticizes your life choices, and you usually get defensive. Your coworker makes a snide comment, and you usually snap back. Your friend guilt trips you, and you usually cave. Then suddenly, you change the pattern. Instead of the expected reaction, there's just calm, peaceful, unshakable calm. It's like if everyone expected thunder after lightning, but instead there was just serene silence. It's so unexpected that it forces people to reconsider everything they thought they knew about how to interact with you. Here's a real-life example. Let's say your dad has a habit of making comments about your weight every time you see him. It's his thing. He thinks he's being helpful, but it just makes you feel terrible. You know, if you just cut out carbs like I did, you'd lose that weight in no time. It's really just about discipline. The old you would have either gotten angry, "My weight is none of your business," or defensive, "I am disciplined. I go to the gym 3 times a week," or hurt, and probably eaten your feelings later. But the new you just smile and change the subject. "The garden looks great this year, Dad. How are the tomatoes doing?" Your dad is completely thrown off. He was expecting pushback, defense, or hurt feelings. Instead, he got gardening. He doesn't know what to do with that. This is the power of strategic silence combined with gentle redirection. You're not being rude or cold. You're simply refusing to participate in conversations that don't serve anyone. You're like a conversational Aikido master, redirecting negative energy into something neutral or positive. And here's what happens over time. People start to realize that certain topics just don't get traction with you. They learn, often unconsciously, that if they want to have a pleasant conversation with you, they need to bring something other than criticism, drama, or negativity. You're literally training the people around you to interact with you in healthier ways, without saying a word about it. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. You might be thinking, this all sounds great, but what if I just come across as cold and uncaring? What if people think I don't care about them? Here's the beautiful truth. Real compassion doesn't require you to absorb other people's toxicity. In fact, the most compassionate thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's toxic behavior. Think about it like this. If someone you cared about was addicted to alcohol, would the most loving thing be to keep buying them drinks? Of course not. You'd support their sobriety, even if they got angry at you for not enabling their addiction. Toxic behavior is the same way. When you react to someone's drama, complaints, and manipulation, you're essentially buying them emotional alcohol. You're enabling their addiction to chaos and negativity. True compassion looks like this. I love you too much to participate in conversations that hurt both of us. Let's say your sister calls you every week to complain about her job, her husband, her kids, and her life in general. She never wants advice. She just wants to dump her emotional garbage on you. After these calls, you feel drained and she feels temporarily better, but nothing actually changes. The old you would have listened for hours, absorbing all her negative energy like an emotional sponge. The new you might say, Sarah, I've noticed our conversations have been really heavy lately. I love you and I want to support you, but I think we both deserve conversations that leave us feeling better, not worse. What's one good thing that happened this week? You're being honest, loving, and redirecting toward positivity. You're not abandoning her. You're inviting her into a healthier way of connecting. Let's get practical. How do you actually implement this in your daily life without feeling like you're walking on eggshells or overthinking every interaction? The key is developing what I call your energy protection protocol, a set of automatic responses that protect your mental and emotional well-being without requiring you to become a different person. First, recognize your early warning signs. Your body knows when someone is trying to drag you into toxicity before your mind catches up. Maybe your shoulders tense, your jaw clenches, or you feel a knot in your stomach. These are your internal alarm bells telling you that someone is trying to make their problem your problem. When you feel those warning signs, you have 3 options. 1. The redirect. Change the subject to something neutral or positive. 2. The boundary. Politely limit your availability or involvement. 3. The mirror. Reflect their real emotion back to them without absorbing the toxicity. Here's what happens when you consistently apply these principles over time. Tame. And this is where it gets really exciting. First, you'll notice that toxic people start avoiding you. Not because you're mean to them, but because you're no longer providing the dramatic reactions they're seeking. You become boring to them, and that's actually a huge compliment. Second, the people who remain in your life start interacting with you differently. They learn that if they want your attention and energy, they need to bring something positive to the table. Your relationships become more balanced and enjoyable. Third, and most importantly, you start feeling like yourself again. You know that feeling when you're around certain people and you can feel your energy being drained? That stops happening. You start feeling more peaceful, more centered, and more in control of your own emotional state. It's like the difference between constantly fighting off mosquitoes and finally having good bug spray. You're not constantly swatting away negativity. You're just naturally protected from it. Let me tell you about Maria. Maria used to be what she called a people pleaser in recovery. She would absorb everyone's problems, try to fix everyone's drama, and constantly worry about whether people liked her. After 6 months of practicing these techniques, Maria told me something incredible. I realized I had been living my entire adult life in other people's emotional weather. If they were stormy, I was stormy. If they were cloudy, I was cloudy. Now I have my own weather system. That's the transformation we're talking about. You stop being a victim of other people's emotional states and start being the master of your own. But here's the most beautiful part of this whole process. When you stop reacting to toxic behavior, you don't just change your own life, you change the lives of everyone around you. Think about it like this. Toxic behavior spreads like a virus. Someone has a bad day and takes it out on their coworker. The coworker goes home and snaps at their spouse. The spouse gets frustrated and is short with their kids. The kids act out at school. It's a chain reaction of negativity that can affect dozens of people. But when you break that chain, when you refuse to pass on the negative energy, you stop the virus from spreading. You become like an emotional immune system for your entire social circle. Even more powerfully, you start modeling a different way of being in the world. People notice when someone remains calm in chaos, kind in conflict, and peaceful under pressure. They start wondering, how do they do that? How do they stay so unaffected by drama? Some people will ask you directly, others will just start copying your behavior unconsciously. Either way, you become a teacher of emotional maturity without ever giving a lecture. I've seen this happen countless times. One person in a family, office, or friend group starts practicing these principles, and gradually, the entire dynamic shifts. Arguments become less frequent. Drama becomes less appealing. People start gravitating toward more positive interactions because they've seen what's possible. You become like a tuning fork for emotional health. Just by being around you, people start vibrating at a higher frequency. Once you've mastered the basics, there are some advanced techniques that can make you practically immune to toxic behavior. The gratitude shield. When someone is being negative or critical, respond with something you genuinely appreciate about them or the situation. This isn't fake positivity. It's choosing to focus on what's good instead of what's wrong. Example: your cooking is terrible and you never clean up after yourself. Response: I'm grateful we can spend time together. Thanks for having me over. The future focus. When someone is stuck in past grievances or present complaints, gently guide the conversation toward future possibilities. Example: I can't believe what happened at work today. My boss is such an idiot. Response: that sounds frustrating. What's your ideal outcome for this situation? The compassionate curiosity. Instead of getting defensive when someone attacks you, get curious about what's really going on with them. Example: you never listen to me. You don't care about anyone but yourself. Response: it sounds like you're feeling unheard. What would help you feel more supported? These techniques require practice, But they're incredibly powerful because they transform conflict into connection and drama into understanding. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with the most important truth about dealing with toxic people. This isn't about changing them. This is about changing you. You can't control what other people say or do. You can't force them to be kinder, more positive, or less dramatic. You can't therapy them into emotional health or love them into better behavior. But you can control your response. You can choose peace over drama, silence over argument, and compassion over conflict. You can decide that your energy is too valuable to waste on people who don't appreciate it. The ancient Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That strength isn't about becoming hard or cold. It's about becoming unshakable in your own worth, unmovable in your own peace, and unbreakable in your own joy. When you master this, you don't just survive toxic people. You transform every relationship in your life. You become the kind of person others want to be around. You create spaces where positivity thrives and negativity has nowhere to take root. You become living proof that it's possible to be kind without being a pushover, compassionate without being a victim, and loving without losing yourself. And that, my friends, is the smartest way to deal with toxic people. Not by changing them, but by becoming so grounded in your own peace that their storms can't touch you. Remember, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to participate in every drama you're offered a role in. And you don't have to absorb every negative emotion that gets thrown your way. Your peace is your power, your silence is your strength, and your refusal to engage with toxicity is your gift to the world. Now go out there and be the calm in someone else's storm, not by fixing their weather, but by showing them what clear skies look like. Thanks for watching. If this video helped you see toxic relationships in a new light, hit that like button and subscribe for more content on building unshakable inner strength. And remember, the most powerful thing you can do in the face of toxicity is absolutely nothing at all. Until next time, stay strong, stay silent, and stay true to yourself.